When it comes to displaying data in your forms, there are three objects that you'll use most often. They're the text box, the combo box, and the list box. Because these three controls work with data, we'll have to connect our blank form to a data source so that they'll work properly. I want to build a form based off of this feedback table here. Let's go ahead and double-click on it to see what's in there. The feedback table collects product feedback from our customers. It has a feedback ID number, which is the primary key for the table, a product ID, or the ID for the product that's being reviewed, a numerical rating, a yes or no field here called public that defines whether or not we can use this field on our website or not, and then we have the text of the feedback over here. So let's go ahead and create a form that allows us to enter in new feedback records. We'll go ahead and close out this table and go to the Create tab, and I'll create a new form in Design View here. Now the first thing we need to do is connect this form to a data source. So go ahead and open up that property sheet and go to the properties for the form here. In the Data tab, I'm going to find the record source property here, and in the drop-down list, I'm going to connect it to the feedback table. Now that that change has been made, we can go ahead and start adding our fields. I'll come up here to Add Existing Fields, and it'll show me a list of all the fields that are in the feedback table. I'm going to take this last one, the feedback field, and drag and drop it into my form. This creates a bound text box that's linked to the feedback field in the feedback table. We can also add text boxes by using the control up here on the ribbon. It's this one here with the AB and the rectangle around it. Let's go ahead and select it, and then I'll click down here to add a new text box into my form. This text box comes in and it says it's unbound. It's not currently connected to a data source. In order to connect it, we can go over to our property sheet. And here, underneath Control Source, I'm going to use the drop-down list and connect it to my Product ID field. So now I've got two fields here inside of my form. Let's go ahead and edit the label here for this Product ID field. I'll double-click on it to change it, and I'll just type in Product. Let's go ahead and move it into position. I'll just click here and drag it and drop it right down on top of the feedback field. Okay, let's go ahead and check it out. I'm going to switch my view here, and we can see our different products here that were being reviewed and the feedback that's being left. We can see down here at the bottom that we have currently 3 records in this feedback table, and we can scroll through those here. If I wanted to add a new feedback record, I can press this button here that says Add New Blank Record. And now I can enter in my product feedback. At this point, we might have a problem. We might know the name of the product that we want to provide feedback on, but we might not necessarily know the product ID in order to enter it into this field here. In this case, a text box doesn't give us any help. Instead, what we can do is change this text box into either a combo box or a list box that'll provide choices that my end users can pull from. Let's go ahead and make that change. I'm going to switch my view back into Design View. I'm going to go ahead and delete this Product ID text box. Just go ahead and select it and press Delete on the keyboard. Now the combo box is this icon here on the controls group, and the list box is on the second row, so I'll press this More button here, and the list box is this one over here. The combo box and the list box are essentially the same thing. The only difference is that a combo box collapses up onto a single line, and if you want to see the options, you expand the menu and you can make a choice from the list. The list box, on the other hand, is always expanded. You use the scroll bar on the right-hand side to scroll through the options and make a selection. In this case, I prefer the look of the combo box, so I'm going to add that to my form. I'll choose the combo box from the menu here and click to add that in. When I do that, the combo box wizard starts, and here we get to define how the list is going to be populated. The first option is to pull values from an existing table or query. The second option creates an embedded table where we can type in the values that we want. Finally, the third option will jump to a record on my form based off of something that I selected in the combo box. In this case, I want the option to get the values from an existing table or query. So I'll choose this first option and say Next. Then we get to define which table or query the values are going to be pulled from. In this case, we don't have any queries in my database right now, so I'm only seeing tables. Now you might think, okay, we're building a form based off of customer feedback, so I want to pull from the feedback table, right? Well, if we did that, we're only going to get values for products that have already been reviewed in the feedback table. In order to get a listing of all of the products that the company offers, in order to get a listing of all of the products that the company sells, we actually want to pull them directly from the products table. Let's go ahead and select it from the list and press Next. Here we get to select which fields we want to show up in the drop-down menu of the combo box. I'm going to choose Name and move it over from Available Fields over here to Selected Fields. Go ahead and say Next. We get to choose how we want these products to sort. I'm going to choose to sort them based off of their name, ascending, so that it creates an alphabetized list. Let's go ahead and say Next. Here we get a preview of what the values are going to be that will appear in our list box. And up here, we have a Hide Key Column checkbox. The default state is to be checked on, and I don't want to change it. I want to make sure that this stays checked. I'm going to show you what this hide key column checkbox means in just a moment, so just remember that it's here and we didn't change it. Let's go ahead and say next, and we'll get to choose what we want to do with the value that we select in the combo box. We can either remember the value for later use, or we can store that value back in another field. I'm going to choose this option and store it back into my feedback table in the product ID field. Go ahead and say next, and we get to add a label to our combo box. I'm going to type in products. Let's go ahead and say finish, and the combo box gets added into my form. Let's go ahead and make it wider here. I'll drag it open, and I'll move it into position here. All right, it's time to go test it out. I'm going to switch my view into form view, and we can go ahead and go down here to the bottom to add a new record. Here, I can choose which product I want to review. For instance, I'm going to review these AAA batteries here, this very first one. And we can leave some product feedback. I'm going to choose great product. And here we can leave the feedback. I'm going to type in great product. Let's go ahead and press this pencil icon here to save the changes. And we can take a look at the feedback table to make sure that that record got entered. And here it is down here on the bottom. This is the product ID, the KE-AAA06, and this is the feedback that we left here. We're going to take a look at in the next movie how we can incorporate the rating and public fields into our form. So at this point, our combo box is working properly. We can choose a name from the list and provide the feedback here, and it gets saved into this feedback table. But you might notice that the value that's getting saved in the feedback table is this product ID. It's this KE-AAA06 instead of the name that I chose from the combo box. In order to see how the translation is being made from the name that we chose on the combo box to this product ID that's actually getting stored in the table, we actually need to go back and take a look at those properties again. I'm going to close out the feedback table, switch over to my form, and switch back into design view one more time. I'm going to select this product ID combo box here and take a look at the data tab of the property sheet here. Now, when we went through the wizard, we created this row source here. It's the select statement. Let's go ahead and take a look at this statement in more detail. I'm going to press on the build button over here, which will open up the query that the wizard created for us. When we went through the wizard, we told it that we wanted to see the name column in the combo box. And that's this column here in the query designer. But we can also see that we have the product ID column right here. And then we also have another column that sorts the products ascending. Now, we didn't choose that we wanted to see the product ID in the dropdown list, but it's here in the query anyway. Let's go ahead and close out the query and we can see what happens. There's a couple of important properties that makes this whole thing work. Once we get the query that returns the two columns, the product ID column and the name column, then we can go over here in the data tab and take a look at this option here, this bound column. You can see that it's currently set to number 1. If we go over here to the format tab, we can see that column count is 2. This is the number of columns that the query is returning. The first column is the ID, the second column is the name. Then if we look down here at column widths, we can see the widths of those two columns. The first one is 0 inches, so we're actually not seeing it. The second one is 1 inch. If we change this 0 inches to a 1, let me just highlight it, type in a 1, and then I'll click off of it, that's going to change what we see in the dropdown list. Let's go back into form view, and we can see that change. If I click here, now we can see 2 columns. When I make a selection, it's not really selecting the name, it's selecting the ID. Let's go back into design view, and I'm going to change that back to 0. So that's how the translation is being made between the product name and the product ID. The row source query is returning 2 columns, the ID and the name. The bound column, the one that's being attached to the table feedback, is this bound column number 1. Over here on the Format tab, we're seeing the 2 columns are being returned, but we're actually only seeing the second one. So that's how you would use a combo box to populate a list of values that the user can select from. It provides additional context over just a standard text box that allows them to type in whatever they want without any control or instruction on what is an appropriate value to enter. The combo box and the list box are much friendlier controls for your end user.